Hi guys, it's Megan from immom2.wordpress.com. So, the kids and I went to an open house on the weekend, and it's an open house for where all the autism services have been moved to, basically. So, the facility that offered my son his IBI services and is currently offering his ABA services. I know, it's a whole bunch of letters. So anyway, they were all moving everything to house everything in one newer building, so that, it just makes it easier for everybody. So we went on the weekend to it, and I was able to take some footage for you guys. It's a, very, very impressive new building. The open house itself, though, I'll be honest, was not the most organized thing. And I'm not talking like all these families with kids with autism are there, so, there's going to be some chaos. I mean, that's normal for us, right? But the organization of the actual open house itself was just not organized. When we walked into the building, I'm kind of looking around in the main floor, or in the reception area, kind of not knowing what to do, where to go. And, there was no, I couldn't see identification on people to figure out who to ask. And, I mean, it was even the little things, like we were there because we had to go to my daughter's karate class first. So we were there, I think, about an hour and a half, something like that, after the whole open house started. And the platter of like cookies and squares and stuff in the front main entrance was still covered in plastic. So it was kind of strange. Like, it felt like they didn't really know that we were all coming, which is weird. I mean, I personally received 2 letters about this open house. They were different formatted letters, so I'm not sure why we received 2, whereas other people that are in the support groups that I facilitate in town didn't receive any. So I actually had put all the information in those Facebook groups so that everybody would have the information. And we did see a few of those families there, which was nice. But it just, if you're going to have an open house, first of all, I've never heard of an open house happening before you actually get in to the facility. But I mean, they were still paving some of the parking lot when we were there, and there was no signage anywhere and stuff. To me, you get in there, you move in, you get rid of some of the kinks, and then you have the open house. But that's just me. But the rooms themselves were quite, they were perfect. Like, they were really well laid out, I should say. We got to see the IBI therapy space. So there was kind of a room with a communal, bigger room, and then smaller individual rooms off to the side for individual therapy, as well as a life skills room and a kitchen, and these kind of things that are specific for IBI therapy. And then they also had an indoor, but it seemed outdoor, park area as well. So there's footage for that. It was really kind of freaky, actually, because all of the ground in there was like really soft padded stuff, which felt really weird with my cast on one foot and then a shoe on the other foot. But what was cool is, I mean, my son especially does circuits around everything, right? So they actually had like a mini running track around this little park. So that was kind of a cool feature. And then we also saw where ABA therapy is also going to be offered as well. So that, and again, similar kind of rooms. It does look, I'll admit, it looks very institutional. Therapies for kids with autism are usually held in rooms where there's not anything on the walls, really. so that there's no overstimulation for that child. And because, you know, they're supposed to be focusing on the therapy itself. So, you know, there aren't all the pretty pictures and all the kids standard of decorating. This is just kind of how it is in the autism world. But what was cool was on the fourth floor, which is where the autism center is. There's this massive, like, waiting room area, and the kids had lots of fun. My kids had lots of fun. My daughter was up against the window checking out the city, and my son was just doing laps around it. One design feature, I guess that you could call it, that they clearly didn't think their way through was our kiddos with autism tend to flip lights off and on, and unfortunately there were light switches within reach of these kids. So being families with kids with autism, we don't think anything of it when the lights flicker off and on. But you know, that's they're gonna have to put a cover of some kind over top of the light switches and stuff. But the one thing that I wish they would have not had was a lot of the workers were still there. I understand that they were doing all the kind of finishing touches on things, but our kids, they can't handle having all this noise and strangers and, you know, brightly colored shirts and hats and all this kind of stuff. It's very distracting for them. So I wish they would have just shut that down for the 4 hours or whatever it was that this open house was happening, or just have them, you know, somewhere else in the building where people were not doing the open house. But anyway, they seem to have thought things out fairly well within the building, and also outside the building there's a bigger spot that's more organized to actually drop your child off for therapy. Whereas at the old facility it was kind of just, you know, you swing in and there wasn't much space to actually park your car for 10 minutes and take your child in and leave. Because for IBI therapy, for example, I used to drop my son off at 9 o'clock in the morning and I'd pick him up at 3 every day. So, so the outside drop-off areas is really well thought out, or so it seemed anyway. There was still a lot of construction and stuff going on out there. Parking, if you're actually staying for an appointment, though, is still fairly expensive if you're going a few times a week at $5 per day or per time. So I don't know why they make it so expensive. Anyway, should be interesting to see how many handicap parking spots there are, though, when they finally finish this. So anyway, I just thought I'd share my ramblings about it, and also show you guys the footage that we took as well while we were there. Enjoy.